One of my friends grew up in a communist country. She told me a story one time that haunts me to this day. When she was a little girl, her parents sat her down and said, "Do not tell anyone at school that we are Christians. If you do, we could lose our jobs, we could lose our house, and we could lose our land. We could lose everything." Can you imagine being a child and carrying that kind of burden? Knowing that one wrong word, one innocent slip could destroy your family? Her parents weren't being paranoid. In that society, the state had the power to decide what was acceptable to believe, how children should be raised, and what values families were allowed to teach. And parents who didn't comply were punished. Now, you might be thinking, that was communism, Christy. That would never happen here. But let me ask you this. When the state starts to see itself as the ultimate authority over children, when it begins to override parents in decisions about education, healthcare, and values, how far are we actually from a world where families are forced to hide who they are just to survive? We are already seeing warning signs. Laws like California's AB 495 and SB 107 are shifting key decisions away from parents and giving the state more power to intervene in family life. For example, AB 495 allows distant relatives or even non-relatives with a close affinity to the child, what does that even mean, to assume caregiver rights over your child without your consent. And SB 107 allows courts to strip custody from parents who do not consent to gender transition procedures for their children. Even if these laws are presented as safeguards, and you better believe they are, of course they are. How else are they going to get them to pass? And for the best interest of children, no. History and psychological research urge caution when parental roles are undermined. The pattern is clear. As parental authority erodes, the foundational bonds and protection that families provide can become vulnerable. If you're feeling uneasy right now, you're not alone. The desire to nurture, guide, and protect our children is deeply rooted in human nature and recognized by psychology as critical to healthy child development. But what happens when that role is threatened, not by circumstance, but by laws in your own state? Today, we're going to explore how the erosion of parental authority affects not only individual families, but the wider fabric of society. Because I don't think this is just a legal or political matter where you're on one side or the other. This is about the deep emotional bonds that nurture children and shape the next generation. Stick with me because I got pissed off and decided to do a show. Who knows where this is going to go today? All right, welcome. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Christy-Faith, author, speaker, educational and parenting expert, and founder of Thrive Homeschool Community. I have been in education a very long time, and I am convinced that there is no better place to educate a child than in a loving home with a motivated parent. If you're listening today, you probably know that homeschooling is deeply meaningful, but also comes with a lot of worry and self-doubt. Maybe you felt the late night anxiety, wondering if you're making the right choices, or have found yourself feeling weighed down by the endless conflicting advice that you can find in online forums and on social media. I created Thrive Homeschool Community because I've been there too, and I wanted parents to have a clear path forward with real support and expert guidance, not just more noise. Your children deserve an exceptional education, and Thrive is here to help you make that possible. Enrollment isn't always open, but if you happen to find those doors closed, please do get on the wait list, because you will then be the first to know when we open, and you'll get an exclusive bonus. It's worth it to be on there. Okay, let's talk about the historical and philosophical foundations of parental rights. Now, I know that's word salad and word jumble, but that's really what this show is about. Do parents have rights in this country over our children? To understand what's at stake today, let's take a step back for a hot minute and examine the foundation of parental authority. You know, I'm a historian, so I'm usually going to bring in this piece because history informs us of so much. Don't worry, I'll keep it brief. So throughout history, the family has been seen as the first and most vital protective unit in society. Even the ancients recognized parents as a child's primary guide and protector. In the United States, this view found legal footing in Pierce versus Society of Sisters in 1925, where the Supreme Court affirmed that the child is not the mere creature of the state. By the way, that's what we're talking about here. Is our child a creature of the state, or is our child under our authority? The implication is profound. Children thrive best when their primary attachment and identity are rooted in family, not in governments. Decades of psychological research, including that of John Bowlby's attachment theory, reinforce these historical insights. Secure attachment to one's parent is the building block for healthy emotional, social, and cognitive development. This is why kids who have an insecure family upbringing, or maybe were in the foster system, struggle so much. They didn't have secure attachment to someone who loved them unconditionally. When policymakers in government decide to undermine these bonds, intentionally or not, the well-being of children comes under threat. And let me tell you, when you start messing with my kids, you are rattling the cage of an angry beast. And I know I'm not alone. Do not mess with a homeschool mom. History offers sobering reminders. In the early 20th century, totalitarian regimes like Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union systematically weakened family bonds to redirect children's loyalty to the state. This is what my friend grew up in. Families that dissented faced punishment, and children endured long-term emotional turmoil as a result. These examples are a stark warning of how undermining parents can have consequences that echo through generations. Now, while our society is quite different today, the importance of strong parental roles remains unchanged. Each new law that shifts authority away from families deserves careful and critical scrutiny, not just for today's children, but for the future of the society that they will shape. So we just looked at the history. Next, we're going to talk about the current erosion of parental rights, and we will do that right after this word from our sponsors. As a homeschool mom who values a family together approach and leans towards the classical and Charlotte Mason styles, I often struggle to bring my educational vision to life with my kids' diverse ages and learning needs. With all our interests and super packed schedule, bridging that gap between the dreamy homeschool I want and reality, I gotta be honest, it's a challenge. Now, yes, I know perfection isn't the goal, but if you're listening and you could use a little easing of your mental load in your day-to-day, I found a resource that has become the quiet hero of our routine, and it could be a really great option for you too. BJU Press Homeschool Curriculum. Now, many think that BJU Press Homeschool is solely an all-in-one option, and though it does excel in that role, did you know you can also opt for specific courses and tailor them to fit your family's needs, just as I have? BJU Press Homeschool provides the perfect balance of structure and flexibility, and easily complements my family's mixed age, family together on the couch learning style. They are second to none in integrating a biblical worldview, stimulating critical thinking, and offering tons of hands-on activities in the lessons. To find out how BJU Press Homeschool can come alongside you in your homeschooling goals too, visit bjupresshomeschool.com or click the link in the show notes. I've got some news. There's a new reading curriculum that ditches workbooks and drills for fun and games. If you're thinking fun and games sounds a little too good to be true, it's not. 98% of children improved their reading test scores in just 6 weeks with the Reading Skill Set by Love Every. It's a phonics-based program that follows the science of reading, but makes learning to read fun, motivating, and confidence-boosting, because it happens by playing games and then practicing with just right skill-level books. Kids love it, and parent educators love it. And it works. Visit loveevery.com/Christy-Faith today and use code Christy10 to get 10% off your purchase of the Reading Skill Set by Love Every. That's lovevery.com/Christy-Faith. Okay, so let's dive into what's happening today and the psychological stakes involved. AB 495 in California, for example, broadens a list of people who can become a child's caregiver, sometimes at the exclusion of the parents themselves. Under certain circumstances, a person with only a minimal relationship to the child can decide on their medical or psychological care without parental agreement or even knowledge. Research on family cohesion consistency finds that disruptions in parental authority and involvement can trigger stress, anxiety, and confusion in children, and can undermine trust in family as a support system. And even more striking is SB 107, which allows for the transfer of custody from parents who object to specific medical procedures for their children. Whatever the legislative intent is here, psychologists warn, and there is no question that any type of undermining of parents and the stable, secure attachment of children to their family is not healthy. No one's going to love our children more than us. Now, supporters of measures like this sometimes frame the debate as simple. One side is helping and the other side is harming. It's important to consider how broad policies like this cause harm. This is a complete overreach. If you're listening today and you come from a Christian worldview perspective, of course you know this is absolutely ludicrous and damaging, just another way to erode families. But you also might be wondering, okay, well, what can we actually do to turn the tide? We'll talk about that right after the break. Before we continue, I want to share with you a program that's been a game changer for our homeschool. At our center, we instructed and helped kids through pretty much every math program on the market and know firsthand just how important a solid math foundation is for our kids' futures. As a career educator with high standards, finding the right program that checked all the boxes felt like too tall of an order until one day I tried CTC Math. CTC Math is an online math curriculum for K-12 students with motivating, interactive lessons that allow kids to learn at their own pace. It does all the teaching and grading so you don't have to, and their adaptive lessons adjust so your child is progressing confidently. With CTC Math, your child is getting a top-notch education and you just made your homeschool life easier. Visit ctcmath.com to start your free trial today or click the link in the show notes. The show will resume in just a minute, but first I want to share with you an incredible resource that is totally free to homeschooling families everywhere. Have you ever felt like you were on trial for your homeschooling choice when visiting a doctor or another service provider? It's unsettling, especially when someone misinformed has the power to threaten your family. Unfortunately, we have heard countless stories of parents who have felt trapped in offices and met with suspicion rather than support simply because they were homeschoolers. I've been profiled and interrogated myself, and I'm sure many of you have as well. Enough is enough. It's time we proactively vet service providers before giving them our business and our money. Enter Christy-Faith's List, a directory 100% free to homeschooling families, connecting you with homeschool-friendly service providers who promise to support you in your homeschooling choice. We want every homeschooler in America to know about and be using this list. So here's how to make Christy-Faith's List a household name. 1, tell all your friends about it. Let's show the market just how powerful the homeschool movement is. 2, check Christy-Faith's List website before stepping foot into any service provider's office to make sure they are on there. And 3, if your favorite service provider isn't on the list, make sure to refer them. There's a button on the homepage of the website. It takes only 30 seconds, and that way we can send them a lovely invite. If you're listening and you are a homeschool-friendly professional, we want you on the list. We're eager to connect homeschooling families with you, shout your name from the rooftops, and bring you tons and tons of business. We have plans for every type of business, both small, local, nationwide, and worldwide. Check out ChristyFaithsList.com today. Welcome back. All right, now we're going to talk about why everyone should care about parental rights. Of course, homeschoolers are always some of the first ones to say, excuse me, right? Because we know that our right to homeschool our children is threatened every single day in Capitol buildings across our country. Thank goodness for the state homeschool organizations that fight to preserve our freedoms. So no, this isn't just for homeschooling parents. Research shows that strong family bonds act as a protective factor for society as a whole. They buffer youth from crime, substance abuse, and mental health crises. When parents are sidelined, those protective effects are diminished. It's just better for society to support an intact family. Homeschooling families, for example, already face skepticism for choosing a less conventional path that a lot of people don't understand. Laws that allow other adults and government agencies to make decisions for our our children make our homeschooling rights vulnerable. But even for those without school-age children, these consequences are far-reaching. When the state is directing things like education, healthcare, or moral instruction, freedom of thought, spiritual autonomy, and community diversity erode. Many studies point out the ripple effect. Weakening parental roles leads to greater community fragmentation, a loss of cultural continuity, and increased societal challenges. The evidence is clear. When families are supported and empowered, society thrives. When they're weakened, societal problems multiply. That's why this conversation matters to everyone, not just for individual parents or homeschoolers scared that the government might infringe on the way they need to homeschool their kids. So what practical steps can you take? Because this is a really important issue. First, stay informed about policy conversations in your area. Laws affecting families can change rapidly, often with very little public discussion. Staying aware is the first step in protecting the ties that matter most. Second, strengthen your support network. Studies show that families with strong connections to others, whether through neighborhood groups, faith communities, or local organizations, are more resilient in the face of pressures. And last, consider supporting organizations that work to protect parental rights. One organization is HSLDA, Homeschool Legal Defense Association. Just joining their mailing list will keep you informed about what's going on nationally. They advocate for the best homeschooling laws nationwide, and they provide legal support to homeschool families across the nation. Another really important thing to do is join your state homeschool organization. They support your state homeschooling rights and provide all sorts of support, including conferences that I often speak at. These are nonprofits fighting behind the scenes for your homeschooling freedoms. So get to know them and support them. And when something comes up in your area and in your state, join the fight. To build a future America that our kids can enjoy, it's important that we protect family bonds. And that includes parental authority, because a strong family is one of society's greatest sources of strength. Thanks for listening today. If this show resonated with you, please share it with a friend, and I'll see you next time.
You have my heart.